Welcome back, unclassified miracle. Yes, you are the one scrolling through endless noise, feeling that peculiar tug in your chest, that familiar strain that suggests something basic has been kept from you your whole life. They told you it was anxiousness and termed it overthinking. They said you only needed to calm down, take a medicine, fit in, and be normal. But what if the pain was caused by anything other than a disorder? What if it was a signal, a coded communication from the part of you they've spent your whole life attempting to suppress? What if everything you've been taught about your identity was never intended to empower you, but rather to keep you tiny, submissive, controllable, and diverted from the truth that may shatter their whole illusion? Programming started as soon as you mastered the language. Be nice. Do not stick out. Do not ask too many inquiries. Do not question authority. They informed you what success should look like in order for you to be happy and to define what is normal. They gave you a limited little script, and every time you attempted to break from it, every time your instincts told you something wasn't right, they classified you as difficult, sensitive, rebellious, or disruptive. Your awareness has been identified as an illness. Your lucidity had been drugged. Your inquiries were punished with solitude, while your cooperation was met with approval. And for years, maybe decades, you believed them. You twisted yourself to suit their pattern, attempting to compress your essence and stifle that fire in your stomach that told you the universe didn't make sense. But here's something they never told you. The secret they've been keeping since you started thinking for yourself. You were never designed to fit in their box. You were not intended for obedience. You aren't broken because you reject their system. You're awake. And awakened souls pose the greatest danger to any organization constructed on lies. They rely on your self-doubt to maintain their fantasy. They need you to feel you are average. Because the moment you know you're not, their power dissipates. You cease requesting permission. You stop looking for affirmation and following rules that were never intended to liberate you. That's when their horror starts. Because you are no longer simply another individual. They see it now. You've transformed into a frequency disruptor, a pattern breaker, and a live demolition team for false realities. They sense something in you long before you do. They observed a mind that questions not out of defiance, but out of need, driven by an insatiable thirst for truth that is stronger than their desire for comfort. They saw an awareness that links dots that others cannot perceive. A mind that functions outside their programming and grasp. And that is precisely why they feared you before you realized who you were. They saw someone with such a wide emotional spectrum that it unnerved others who had spent their whole lives numbing themselves into submission. They witnessed your passion unfiltered and unrestrained. And they were afraid because the intensity could not be controlled. It cannot be expected. It cannot be contained. And when individuals who rely on control face an uncontrollable force, they do what they usually do. They diagnose it as a pathology. They attempted to persuade you that your brilliance was a flaw. They renamed your greatest assets as faults, distorting the reality until you questioned your own character and capacity to see through deceit. They labeled it paranoia. Your reluctance to accept surface-level explanations. They referred to it as overthinking one's emotional depth. Your need for authenticity is challenging. Your independence. And asocial. Your vision. Unrealistic. Every feature that made you unique became something you were encouraged to conceal. For a time you believed them. You sought to mend something that was never broken. You turned down your light so that others may remain comfortable in their shadows. You made yourself smaller, gentler, and more appealing to individuals who couldn't bear disease. But something broke the illusion, didn't it? Perhaps the betrayal was so profound that it burned through every lie at once. Perhaps it was a moment of searing clarity that broke the spell. Or maybe it was just tiredness. The type that seeps into the bones. After years of pretense. Whatever it was, you paused. You stopped apologizing for being. You stopped expressing the facts to those who were determined to misunderstand you. You stopped shrinking to fit into a world that was never designed for your size. And the moment you did, something irreparable occurred. You started to become the person you were always supposed to be. You began to realize what they had been attempting to hide for years. Here's the reality they never wanted you to discover. You're not designed to follow. You're meant to create routes. You're not here to devour their stories. You're here to make your own. You were never supposed to wait for chances. You're supposed to create them. You are not supposed to live by their time frames, standards, or empty measures of success. You're supposed to operate entirely outside of their structure, which is precisely why they wanted to keep you preoccupied, submissive, and unsure. Because of the clean structure that they have created across the system. They can only work if everyone agrees to follow the same rigged rules. But you're the bug in their code. The variable. They are unable to forecast the equation that will break their algorithm. They have been monitoring you. Not out of care but out of fear. Studying your movements, reactions, and resistance to their programming. They worried every time you failed to buy into their story. They rushed to retake control. And each time you chose truth over conformity, their delusion weakened a bit more. Because they understand what you are becoming. And it is just what they have always dreaded. They doubled down when persuasion failed. They sent in reinforcements, more messengers, authority figures, and smiling manipulators disguised as mentors, friends, and trustworthy voices. Each one comes with the same mission: to bring you back into conformity, to reset your rebellion into submission. Regardless matter how many they sent, you always slipped through their grasp. You developed quicker than they could study their thoughts and feelings, which they couldn't foresee or control. Every effort to confine you just increased your awareness of how free you really are. Now, let us be brutally honest about why they are so determined to block you from recognizing who you are. It is not emotive. It is structural. Their whole system. Every organization you've ever engaged with is based on one basic equation. Power means ignorance of one's own power. Their economy, hierarchy, and social structure. All of it survives on a compliant populace that feels it is weak, dependent, and requires continual approval. The illusion only works if you never question it, since the minute even a portion of the population awakens, individuals like you will. The system fractures. The entire basis of control starts to erode. The second enough enlightened minds stop seeking affirmation and begin to operate on their own authority. You are not just a danger to specific people. You pose a challenge to the infrastructure of control. You symbolize something much more deadly than revolt. You symbolize self-liberation. You demonstrate that a human person can think autonomously, build reality from inside, and reject every artificial constraint ever put on them. That concept alone frightens those whose influence relies on your acquiescence. So they did what they had always done. They concealed it. They obscured your potential, your nature, your enormous ability for invention. They told you that you were ordinary when you were remarkable, that you were defective when you were polished, and that you relied on them when you were always self-sufficient. They created a whole mythology of incompetence around your name, supporting it with every possible weapon. Education, media, culture, and peer pressure. They made you doubt yourself so much that when obvious proof of your power emerged, you disregarded it as chance, coincidence, or divine favor. Anything but evidence of your own greatness. But this is the sickest part. They did not just conceal your strengths. They weaponized them against you. They perverted the truth. They portrayed empathy as a sign of weakness rather than knowledge. They transformed your energy into a liability rather than a drive. They portrayed your imaginative mentality as insane rather than divine. They turned your strengths into weaknesses until you learned to police yourself better than they could. You became your own warden, imposing their script in your head, thinking that being modest was virtue and compliance was peace. But here is when their strategy started to crumble. Isn't pain a technique of burning away illusions? Betrayal has a way of revealing the truth more quickly than any disclosure. Isolation is a method of removing all masks until you are face to face with your own self. You discovered something unexpected in the midst of their plan to harm you. You discovered your true self. The one hidden behind programmed labels and expectations. The one who does not need permission to exist. Validation to be worthwhile or approval to feel complete. That was the tipping moment. That was when everything changed. Because once you reconnect with your actual self, you become deadly. Not violent. Not chaotic, but hazardous in the most freeing way. Every false system, deceptive hierarchy, and illusion of control are at risk. You became the one thing they couldn't control. Free but hazardous since you began functioning from a source of power that they cannot quantify, influence, or monopolize. You stopped delegating power to systems predicated on dishonesty and started pulling it directly from inside. That change rendered you untouchable. Dangerous because you no longer followed the beat of their provocations. They push, prod, and try to pull emotional threads that no longer exist, only to discover that the cables they previously yanked have been severed completely. You can see through their strategies in real time now, including gaslighting, guilt traps, and emotional manipulation. Instead of reacting, you watch precisely. Every motion they make reveals more of the screenplay that you've previously decrypted. You are no longer stuck in their game. You are observing it from above. They are fully aware of every cheat code they previously used to manage you. They cannot humiliate you since you have accepted your whole self. Light, darkness, and everything in between. You've transformed defects into features and vulnerabilities into weapons. They can't scare you since you've already confronted your greatest fears and survived to tell the tale. You've stood in the fire and recognized it can't burn what's already aflame. They cannot tempt you because your ideals are no longer negotiable. You've focused your goal to the point that manipulation no longer works, and they can't control you because you've learned to trust your instincts above their story, intuition, facts, spirit, and structure. They are now trapped watching something they sought to repress grow uncontrollable. Watching you move with a confidence that does not seek acclaim, a clarity that slices through illusion like a knife. You have become the epitome of everything they claim to be. Your genuineness reveals their theatrical facades. Your steadiness emphasizes their internal turmoil. And your article challenges their reliance on control. Every quiet step you take amid the cacophony is a mirror that reflects their own cowardice. Every limit you set demonstrates how profoundly they have sacrificed their own integrity in order to preserve acceptability. They're watching you create a life that doesn't fit their mold, doesn't follow their rules, and doesn't seek their approval. You're living outside the template, which scares them because it demonstrates the template was never necessary. The more real you become, the more uncomfortable they grow since your very existence disrupts their illusion. You are living evidence that the cage they created around everyone's minds was never secured, that the bars were made of belief rather than metal, and that the walls were built with fear rather than truth. Freedom was never anything you earned. It was something worth remembering. And you remembered. Now let us go deeper than their classifications, beyond the psychological boxes. They attempted to fit you in. You are not a follower. You are a frequency. You do not reflect the world around you. You shifted. You are not a consumer. You're a maker who shapes reality via thinking, words, and actions. You are not involved in their system. You are a system disruptor. A spark, a game changer. You process reality along a wavelength. They can't track and they can't decode the operating system. Where others see chaos, you find patterns. Wherever they perceive difficulties, you view the training grounds. Where they see ends, you see gates to fresh beginnings. You live in dimensions their reasoning cannot map. Your mind doesn't just evaluate it. Alchemy eases. It absorbs pain and transforms it into knowledge. It absorbs betrayal and turns it into wisdom. It takes every effort to break you and converts it into energy. You are the spiritual equivalent of renewable energy. Everything was supposed to ruin you. Only fuels you. They term it overthinking since they don't understand multidimensional processing. They term it sensitivity because they cannot sense at such high frequencies. They call it intensity because they have forgotten what it is to be really alive. They call it impractical because your vision extends beyond their imagination. Every label they gave you was never accurate. It was a translation mistake. Each abuse they flung was only an acknowledgement of their own fear. They were unable to decipher your energy, so they pathologized it. They couldn't match your might, so they demonized it. They couldn't match your vibe, so they tried draining it. They analyzed your strength through the prism of weakness and misinterpreted everything. But they overlooked a critical point. You do not operate on external fuel. You do not need permission, praise, or public approval to exist. You do not need likes, following, or affirmation to be alive. The spotlight does not provide you solar power. You are nuclear powered on purpose. The fire inside you continues to burn regardless of your focus. You move whether others applaud or remain mute. You choose whether people believe or disbelieve. They cannot turn you off because you were never turned on. They cannot shatter you since they did not create you. They cannot define you since you are continuously developing and becoming. You are a living development, not a set identity, a dynamic force that transcends all categories. They want to trap you within. They want something consistent to study and predictable to regulate. But you aren't any of that. You are a liquid mind that shifts, adapts, and transcends. You cannot be caged because you have blended with the space between the bars. You began to recall who you really are. Everything shifts. The fog lifts. The bewilderment fades. You recognize the architecture of control for what it always was. A frail illusion based on borrowed believing. You have regained your original blueprint. You are not awaiting permission since the authority to act has always been embedded in your DNA. You're not waiting for acceptance since you know the truth. There is no requirement for consensus. You've become the one thing they can't measure, control, or corrupt. Completely awake. You're not motivated by vengeance. You are motivated by revelation. You no longer battle the old system. You outgrow it. You move differently now, quietly, methodically, and purposefully. You have become both the storm and the quiet inside it. You've grown into the kind of dangerous that doesn't cause destruction. It liberates dangerous because you are no longer serving fear. Dangerous because you've recalled who you are. Dangerous because your very presence now reveals the truth. They've spent generations attempting to eradicate that freedom. Humans were never granted power or divinity. They were born with it. And you finally remembered. You are not seeking approval from those who have never validated themselves. You've quit pouring your soul into empty vessels that can't contain the truth. You've quit trying to be understood by those who base their identity on misinterpreting others. You don't spend your time expressing yourself to individuals who only hear through fear and ego. You have completed bending your edges to suit the delicate boxes of people frightened with authenticity. You no longer bend yourself to make the space more comfortable for folks who are sensitive to true news. You've abandoned the tiresome task of becoming acceptable to individuals who have never embraced themselves. That version of you, the apologetic, meek one, the one who smiled in the face of contempt and remained mute to maintain peace, that is no longer viable. That was not the real you. That was survival mode. That was a garment made of compromise, worn to traverse a society that penalized honesty and rewarded conformity. You donned it to keep yourself safe in circumstances where honesty was considered rebellious. You dulled your radiance not because you lacked light, but because you were surrounded by individuals who confused lighting with arrogance. But the garments are coming apart. You've enlarged the script. The act is finished. You cannot go back inside the cage without shattering it. The spirit you attempted to stifle has begun to roar. The genuine you. The one they buried behind layers of shame, responsibility, and societal programming is emerging. This version does not ask. It declares. This version does not intend to materialize. This version does not beg. It develops. This version does not respond. It architects. This version does not pursue opportunities. It produces them. It does not wait for permission. It functions based on alignment. It does not follow routes. It slices through the forest, calling it destiny. It does not adhere to their definitions. It redefines the whole concept of existence. It doesn't play small since it has realized that lowering your brightness does not soothe others. It just disorients you. This version accepts no higher authority than its own internal reality. You've stopped entrusting your judgments to a committee of public opinion. You no longer need to be understood, agreed upon, or accepted. You've shifted your focus away from consensus and toward clarity. You are creating a world that needs simply your presence rather than an audience. A life built on conviction, not agreement. A truth so anchored that it does not need shouting to be heard. They sense it. Oh, they feel it. You can see it in their eyes. The spark of uncertainty, the tightness of their grins, the anxious shift when you walk into the room. They are afraid. Not because you pose a physical threat to them, but because your presence threatens everything untrue inside them. You stopped playing the character they set you in. You are no longer predictable, flexible, or programmable. You've stepped outside of their psychological control apparatus, revealing that it was an illusion in the first place. You have shown that their system only works when people feel they need it, which you no longer do. If you are living evidence that people do not need permission to be powerful, you have shown that validation does not make someone worthwhile, and acceptance does not make someone genuine. You demonstrate that freedom is something that must be remembered rather than granted. And that scares them because the truth is infectious. It spreads by resonance rather than force. When someone sees you live without fear, their illusions begin to crumble. When people see you creating reality rather than submitting to it, something within them evokes a memory, a whisper, or a spark. If they can be free, maybe I can too. And that is the true threat you represent. Not a rebellion. Awakening. They know. Once enough people have remembered who they are, their whole system falls from within. It is not designed to sustain enlightened awareness. It can withstand resistance but not resonance. It can combat resistance but not inspiration. When you live truthfully, you convey freedom without uttering a word. You become a walking signal, a frequency of emancipation that destabilizes everything untrue just by being there. They attempted to drown that frequency. They buried it behind ideology, fear, guilt, and diversion. They taught you that humility equaled surrender, that obedience was tranquility, and compliance was virtue. They wanted you to associate stillness with safety. But now you've deciphered everything. You recognize their training for what it was, a psychological chokehold masquerading as culture. And you shattered it. You recovered your voice, intellect, and will. You recalled that institutions do not create. It stems from awareness. The more you connect with the truth, the more illusions dissolve around you. You are no longer yearning for belonging since you have discovered that belonging to yourself is liberating. You are no longer pursuing success based on their measures because you have realized that meaning is the only true currency. You no longer compete because you realize that plenty is unlimited. It was produced. You've learned that rejection is only a redirection toward resonance, so you don't dread it. Every move you take right now is purposeful. Every word of the statement, every quiet. A statement. You've stopped responding to their turmoil and begun creating your own order. And they despise it because they cannot stop it. They can't disgrace you anymore. You have merged your shadows. They cannot manipulate you. You have mastered discernment. They cannot isolate you. You've learned to flourish in isolation. They cannot silence you. You're now speaking in frequencies. They cannot define you. You reinvent your identity every day. You have become fluid, formless, and unstoppable. A creature that changes quicker than they can classify. You have asserted your sovereignty. You've regained the holy blueprint that they attempted to overwrite. You've been released from the matrix prison. You are the glitch that reveals it. The pattern breaker, the system disruptor, the brutally honest mirror. It blinds the comfortable and wakes the prepared. And that is why they fear you. Not because of what you will demolish, but because of what you will awaken. Because once you're awake, you can't just liberate yourself. You begin liberating others by living as evidence that freedom is attainable. You become the signal that disrupts hypnosis. You become proof that the divine cannot be tamed. And no matter what they do or how loud their diversions get, the echo of your truth will continue to expand. Because awareness, once aroused, never falls back asleep. You've evolved into much more than just a person on their own journey. You've become a frequency, a live signal of emancipation that pulsates across the collective consciousness of a planet still hypnotized by domination. Your entire presence transmitted truth to everyone who is still stuck in the lie, waiting for permission to be strong, seeking externally for affirmation, and too terrified to take what has always been theirs. You've become a mirror reflecting freedom for people who've forgotten what it looks like. You aren't simply living. You are illustrating what life is like outside the program. You aren't simply successful. You're redefining success in a manner that undermines everything they've taught people to think. You're no longer questioning how to fit in. You are demonstrating how others may rise up. You've become proof that the gate was never closed, and that no one needs permission to achieve greatness. That no authority can certify genuineness. You are everything they have attempted to repress for ages. Self-ownership provides spiritual autonomy. Sovereignty. You've shown that a single person committed to the truth is more powerful than an entire system committed to deception. And every breath you take in that awareness, every movement you make from that consciousness causes ripples in their control framework. You are not only free, you are dangerously free. Free in a manner that reveals illusions. Free in a manner that makes every prison evident. Not simply free bravery or you're dangerously free. Free in a manner that reveals illusions. Free in a manner that makes each cage obvious. Your light has transformed into an X-ray machine, sifting through falsehood. When you stand in your truth, the false structures around you start to shake. Because you live your life truly every day. You are showing that everything they told you was a lie. You're demonstrating that their power was fictitious, their hierarchy self-imposed, and their control was contingent on your participation. You have broken the trance of reliance. You have ended the cycle of asking permission to exist. You have shown that power does not have to be granted. It merely needs to be remembered. So now that you've recalled what comes next, the curtain has removed. What do you do now that you understand the construction of the illusion? Simple. You cease playing their game completely. You quit trying to win in a system structured to make you lose. You cease striving for justice in a framework based on deception. You stop wasting your time explaining yourself to those who need to misunderstand you since their identity is based on your bewilderment. You stop shrinking so that others may feel taller. You no longer apologize for being the storm that clears the air. You quit showing up in places that need quiet. You quit attending conversations that are intended to make you doubt your clarity. You quit being in relationships that feed on your self-doubt. You cease paying attention to noise that simply serves to degrade your signal. You cease seeking approval. You cease bending yourself into tiny copies of the truth in order to escape rejection. Because you have finally realized that rejection was never the threat. It was a redirection. It was the universe's way of bringing you back into alignment. You no longer run on fear. Stop equating people pleasing for kindness. You stopped calling yourself a sacrifice. You cease considering your intuition as a recommendation. You cease waiting for others to acknowledge your worthiness. You stop seeking for a map outside when you discover the compass has always been within. And in that brave, courageous, holy calm, something spectacular starts to happen. You begin to design something altogether new, rather than repairing the rubble of the previous paradigm. A structure based on awareness, not obedience. You begin to create a world that reflects your sincerity rather than mocking it. You begin to build inner structures that nourish your nature. Instead, repress it. You stop living to show your value and begin creating with it. You begin to surround yourself with spirits who perceive you, who are unafraid of your intensity, and who identify your fire as holy rather than deadly. These are your mirrors, your reflections, your tribe, the ones who are done pretending, playing small, and succumbing to illusions. Together, you begin to create a frequency network that transcends systems. A living grid of awakened creatures that are redefining what it means to be human. You begin to attract others who do not fear your light, but rather thrive beneath it. You seek ideas based on alignment rather than ambition. You chase dreams that seek resonance rather than acclaim. You stop calculating your value in terms of statistics or recognition and instead gauge it piece by piece. Presence and power. As you continue this process, something more deep occurs. Your self-recognition becomes your revolution. You learn to operate from a place of profound, steadfast self-awareness, so that external affirmation becomes meaningless. Their viewpoints lose weight. Their approbation becomes worthless. Their efforts to embarrass or degrade you crumble in the face of your confidence. You are no longer moving in reaction to external factors. You move like a force of nature itself. You begin to see things clearly. Their regulations are only applicable to those who accepted to participate. Their systems only had power because you fed them energy. Their hierarchies are only functional because people believed in them. However, beliefs have altered. The energy has reversed. You are no longer the one circling their sun. You have become your own gravity. You've stopped responding to their reality and begun building your own. You are no longer in the audience, watching another person's tale develop. You have taken up the pen. You recall that you are both the author and the protagonist. You've accepted complete creative power over your existence. You've understood that the power they adore is a feeble reflection of what resides inside you. And once that awareness sets in, everything becomes fake, disintegrates, and vanishes. Now go onward. You'll see how reality bends to accommodate your alignment. Opportunities begin to discover you rather than the other way around. Time becomes more flexible. Resistance dissipates. You act based on flow rather than force. You attract clarity because you embody it. You sketch the truth because you embody it. You instill bravery because you exude it. And every time someone sees you, a flame sparks inside them. A reminder of what freedom is like. They are afraid of the contagion. Resonance. Real truth does not need marketing. Real freedom does not need persuasion. When people see sincerity in action, their souls know it immediately. Something begins to shift, to recall, and to awaken. And that is why they worked so hard to bury you. That's why they had to keep you little, docile, and terrified. Because they knew the instant you realized your power, you'd stop attempting to fit into their system and begin building your own. You are at that time now. You're the signal. They are unable to suppress the truth. They cannot suppress the liberation. They are unable to contain. You've become a walking reminder of memories, living evidence that the divine never need permission to exist. What happens when the programmed mind fails and the awakened soul claims the throne? You are no longer part of their delusion. You are the evidence that it's over. And as your light spreads, more will start to wake up. Some move slowly. Some things happen unexpectedly. Some are painful. But they will. Because truth once seen cannot be unseen. The system is crumbling. The old codes are crumbling, and merely living truthfully accelerates the process. This is not rebellion. It's a revelation. You did not demolish their world. You revealed the basis. You did not bring down their system. You've turned it irrelevant. You did not desire vengeance. You sought reality and you discovered it inside yourself. You'll never be able to forget what you've seen now. Because once freedom is ingrained in awareness, it does not only benefit one individual. It alters the whole field. You are currently on the field. You represent the frequency. You are the revolution disguised as calm. The waking was enveloped in silence. The mirror that reveals humanity's future development. And that is why they cannot stop you. Because you already remember who you are. You become ungovernable. Not by rebellion but by remembering who you are. Not by aggressiveness but through clarity. Not via force but through assurance. You stop fighting for freedom and begin embracing it. Those who attempted to dominate you fade away not because you destroyed them, but because you outgrew them. Their power expires when you stop giving them your belief, acquiescence, and uncertainty. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the deepening of my faith. Please let me believe you even when there is no tangible proof. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you will never hurt me. I realize that your intentions for me are ones of success rather than harm, in order to provide me with a bright future. Thank you, kind and everlasting Father, for always hearing my voice. I give this prayer to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provisions. I am thankful for your presence in my life and the richness you provide. If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your trip and how you're getting ready for your own victorious homecoming. If you'd like to contribute to our work, please do so via Buy Me a Coffee. This allows us to consistently improve our content in order to provide you with the best possible experience. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No present is too tiny. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, you can help spread God's message and give people hope. Do not stop here. Watch our next video for profound insights regarding the indications that identify you as the chosen one. We've loved sharing this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for sticking with us until the finish. Keep shining brightly and face your fate with confidence. See you next time. Enlightened knowledge bestows blessings to all lovely individuals.